Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Circuit Paul Ricard, and welcome to rounds 11 and 12 of the 2021 Clio Cup Europe, the 30th anniversary of this fantastic championship. And what a weekend to be part of, eh? We're here supporting the Formula One Emirates Grand Prix de France for 2021. It's been a real pleasant surprise for everybody in the Clio Cup paddock, including myself, Chaz Draycott, to be part of this incredible weekend of motorsport. This is the live stream for the first qualifying session of the weekend. We have two qualifying sessions, one this afternoon and one very early tomorrow morning, and then we have two races over the course of the weekend. One is going on tomorrow afternoon, on Saturday of course, and the other on Sunday in the morning. That will be round 12 of the championship. But conditions are fantastic. Everybody's spirits are high, and we have a wonderfully packed grid for you this weekend. You're about to see 39 of the most up-to-date Clio Cup race cars take to the circuit. You can see a lot of them in the pit lane on the right-hand side of your shot there. But otherwise, just look at it. It's an absolutely wonderful day to be a part of. In the championship, we have David Pouget at the top of the pile. Him and his rival, Nicolas Milon, are only 5 points apart, despite being on nearly 400 points apiece after 10 rounds of this championship. The series is split into 4 different groups, A, B, C and D, so champions can arise from each of those 4 groups, and they all turn up at whichever meetings they can make, basically. There's 20 races count towards your score over the course of the season, so your best 20 results, because some drivers will do all 30 rounds. I believe Nicolas Milon and David Pouget at the top of the pile will be 2 of the drivers to do that this year, but only your best 20 results count. So it's very interesting to see how the drop scores come into that, because of course if you have a result where you maybe don't finish one of the 2 races over the course of a weekend, that could actually help you because you don't drop as much of a score, but then at the same time your rivals could potentially gain something from the fact that they don't have any bad results. But either way, the heat haze is certainly on the move here, and it's a beautiful sunny day in the south of France. Of course, the Le Castellet region, not too far from Marseille. And you can see now the cars just on the left-hand side of your shot there in the pit lane. And here we go then. Qualifying is now underway, and everybody piles their way out onto track. Obviously not the loudest machines that you'll hear all weekend here. These Renault Clios with their 1.4-litre turbocharged engines, 200 brake horsepower, but look at the temperatures there. 27 degrees, track temperature 44 degrees Celsius. And look at these great machines making their way out onto the track. Good to see the number 33 machine of Michael Fay joining us again. Michael raced in the very first round of the championship at Nogaro in April. And there's a lot of familiar names. There's Nicolas Milon in the white car on the right-hand side. An interesting thing to note from last weekend at Misano, sorry, the weekend before last, was that Nicolas Milon and his teammate Marc Guillot actually swapped cars for that weekend to see if there was any pace difference between the two. Nicolas Milon wanted to see just how quick Marc's car was, and Marc wanted to see how quick Nicolas was. And they actually had a fantastic battle between the pair of them, although it was cut short by the fact that Marc Guillot had engine troubles. So maybe a bit of a blessing for Nicolas Milon, who took one of the race weekend victories. The other went to David Pouget, who's the very first man in this train now, and of course, top of the table in the championship. But you can see just how much runoff area they get at this circuit as well. It's obviously one of the key features of this track. Very little in the way of gravel traps and grass runoff areas. But you can see them all now just getting used to the circuit, getting used to the conditions. They've had 2 practice sessions before this weekend. And we are using the full Grand Prix circuit as Formula One are this weekend as well. And we have, like I say, 39 of them racing this weekend. So there will be no shortage of action this weekend. Now we've got David Pouget and his teammate Alexander Alboy in the number 25 leading the way. Then it's the number 31 of Jeremy Bordegaray just behind them. And Lauren Giardas in there as well, the 78 machine for Team Lucas. Not too far back. People watching on on the pit wall with eager anticipation as to what times they can do. But look at how pretty this circuit is there with the Aramco branding as well. But now, just coming into the final sector, the drivers will get up to speed. Some of them will want a bit of that clear air, but you'll see teammates working together here. We, of course, have the two humongous straights down the back straights of the circuit, split up by the two chicanes. And then even the main straight here as well will provide really good slipstreaming opportunities for these fantastic little cars. They do punch a hell of a hole in the air, little hatchbacks do. So the slipstream is humongous. And so with the brake squeals as well. Cold brakes on these cars do make a lot of noise. Anybody that's witnessed any previous Clio Cup races and been to them in person, listening to the cars line up on the grid, you'll hear a lot of squealing from those brakes. But onto their flying laps for the first time this weekend then. It's David Pouget leading them across the line from Kevin Jimenez and Alexander Alboy. And then behind them is the 31 of Jeremy Bordegaray, like I say. Pouget in the white and yellow car at the very front. Kevin Jimenez has been one to watch this season. Now there is a Challengers Cup and a Gentleman Drivers Cup in this championship as well. You'll see the little blue sticker on the rear window there of Jeremy Bordegaray's car. That basically signifies that he is in the Challengers Cup, which is for drivers that are either under the age of 26 or haven't competed in a certain number of Clio Cup races before the season started. The Gentleman Drivers Cup are for drivers that are over a certain age and, of course, have competed in a set number of them before now. But as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it's mainly a French-dominated championship. Many of the drivers in this championship French. We also have Spanish drivers, Italian, Dutch, German. We even have the Kazakhstani driver of Yerely Ospanov in the number 13 car. He unfortunately had a bit of a rough weekend at Misano a few weeks ago, so he's going to be hoping for more this time around. But look at how hot it is out on track. These cars skipping around on the brakes. David Pouget's gone straight on at the chicane, pushing his luck early on here, David Pouget. That now means that Kevin Jimenez gets no slipstream down this second part of the straight. And Alexander Alboy has to just chase him and chase him and chase him. You can see it's quite windy here at the moment. Or it looks like it because of the heat haze, but apparently there isn't too much wind at all. But it's two of the GPA racing cars at the front. There is Alboy. He's been very exciting to watch in previous rounds as well, cocking a wheel as well. The right rear just coming off the ground through there. Speaking of going off, Giardas went way off exit stage right. You can see them really leaning on that front left through this final section of the circuit. That long, long right-hander really not helping the temperatures on those front left tyres. It gets a bit of a break then as they swing back round to the left. Such a flowing circuit this, though. They're going to be so smooth over the course of the weekend, and drivers are going to have their wits about them down the straights to make sure they defend the right part of the racetrack. As you can imagine, with it being a Grand Prix circuit, it's an incredibly wide track. So defending here is not easy at all. There's Pouget just popping into the back of his shot there, trying to gain track position again, and he's actually got back in front of Jeremy Bordegaray. I'm sure Bordegaray won't be pleased with that. But Jimenez is going to put the very first time on the board in this session, and it's a 2 minutes 31.920 for Kevin Jimenez. He is leading the Challengers Cup at the moment as well in that championship, and he has been a dominant figure in that series. Spinkovic goes up to 5th, the Polish driver in the number 125 car, just coming towards us there in the white, black and orange machine. Very, very impressive indeed. That's the number 4 car of Joaquin Rodrigo for Viasa Sport. Here's a slow-mo of David Pouget on the brakes. Look at that. Locks the right rear. The car tries to go to the right, but he wants it to go to the left. Look at that. How sideways it gets on the brakes. Gets away from him. Sometimes the drivers let these cars wobble around and let the rear end step out slightly on the brakes to really help that rotation, but beautiful slow-mo shot there of the car really dipping its nose down on the brakes. But it's Jimenez, Alboy, Mayo 3rd at the moment. That is the number 99 of Guillaume Mayo, although Nicolas Milon has now popped up into 3rd place. Coquine is up into 4th. And then it's the number 93 of Nicolas Abea in 5th. But of course, the French drivers are going to want to win on home soil this weekend. Pouget moves in front of Alboy, clearly getting the first bit of assistance down there. He's done a purple sector 1. See what the time looks like as they come out of the chicane And through sector 2, he's going to get a big pull along there from Kevin Jimenez. Intriguing that the cars have got the numbers on the rear windows for this weekend. That's not something they've had before now in this series. Maybe something extra within the regulations of them joining in a Formula 1 weekend. You can hear tyres squealing for mercy through the long double apex right. Look how much Pouget is closed up to the back of Jimenez, who has a moment. The car steps out. He won't want to get in his teammate's way, and indeed he dives out of the way to the right-hand side. Pouget surely on for a pole position time here. He's had the help of 2 of his teammates already, and he's kept it very tidy indeed before now. One more final long left-hander, 180 degrees here. Gets the car settled. Locks up a little bit though as he chucks it to the right. Doesn't quite work for him. He's barely 2/10 clear of Lana Poudon at the moment, who's the fastest in the Challengers Cup. Coquine in 4th place overall is there, and look at that from Pouget. 2:29.5, some 0.8 of a second quicker than everybody else. That's insane pace, that is. But of course, that's what you get for working as a team. There's strength in numbers. Spinkovic goes up to 10th. 13th is Grisot in the gentleman drivers category. He's actually the highest placed gentleman driver at the moment in 13th. Some 2 seconds off the overall pace. But there's your current pole sitter, David Pouget. Look at the way these cars just flick one way then the other. The weight transfer is so great. They remain quite flat. I say that as a wheel comes off the ground. And that's definitely flat. Is the front left on Alejandro Schimpf's car. He's lucky the rim isn't hitting the ground there, but if he puts too much load through it as he comes back around, that will certainly change. He's another Challengers Cup driver. And there was the moment that the tyre went down. Obviously the temperatures here not helping that. And he's now got to creep all the way back around the lap. It was quite early on in the lap, I think, where that's gone down, although maybe I'm mistaken. It's just near the end of the lap there. I can be forgiven for thinking that a lot of this circuit does look the same. But that's far from ideal to have in qualifying, but they should be able to get that changed pretty quickly. You can hear the slight burble of the engine. Sounds very good indeed. Now there's Nicolas Milan with his teammate Thibaut Bossy just behind him. Apologies, actually. Thibaut Bossy is from the TB2S team, not Milan competition, as Nicolas is. Now he's indicating to the left. Great to see the indicators still work on these cars. Now Nicolas saying, look, I'm moving out of your way. And Thibaut Bossy saying, yes, but I want all of that tasty slipstream, please. Lets him through on the brakes. Nice gentlemanly stuff. Thibaut Bossy really flying through there. He was very quick at Hockenheim as well, getting involved in one of the greatest battles that I've ever seen. The racing in this championship is never dull. And trust me, after this weekend, if you want to see more of it, go back and watch the 2 races from Hockenheim earlier in the season. We had a hell of a fun time there. But at the moment, it's Pouget from Guillot, Lana Poudon, Milan, Bossy, Coquine, Abea, Gerardo, Jimenez and Alboy. Spinkovic just outside of that top 10 at the moment. Lana Poudon was fastest in the first practice session of the weekend. Guillot's actually set the fastest first sector out of anybody, but he's a little bit off. I say a little bit, 0.6 off in just the second sector alone. Jeremy Bordegaray is in the pits. But we continue to see Nicolas Milan chasing down Thibaut Bossy. I believe Marc Guillot is just in the background of the shot there as well, in the car that's very hard to miss, the bright yellow machine, the number 2, which Nicolas Milan was driving last week. Nicolas, a multiple champion in Clios. He's won so many series, it's hard to count. Comes back across the line then. I believe it's 11 championships Nicolas Milan has combined in Clios. That's Clio Cup France, Clio Cup Spain as well. Thibaut Bossy improves and is 5th. Guillot improves and actually goes down to 4th because Gerardo in the number 5 car goes up into 2nd place. Still half a second off David Pouget though. Guillot back up to 3rd place now with an improvement on his time. Interesting to see Anthony Gerardo, I think, in the number 5 machine. He seems to be in a different car this weekend. Anthony Girardo's usually in a white, orange and black car with Milan competition. It seemed to me like he was in a dark blue car as he went through our picture a moment ago. Now here's the three at the very front of the train. Alexandre Alboy putting a lot of load through that front left, and David Pouget putting a little bit too much load through it there, running wide at the end of the main straight, the back straight. Look how far that right rear is coming off the ground on Alboy. The tyre's nearly coming off the rim as he chucks it through the long right. Really working the tyres very hard indeed. These Michelins certainly being tried this weekend, so is the runoff there from Kevin Jimenez. That lap won't count. That'll be another track limits warning, I'm sure. Look how sideways they get when they chuck them in as well. They really rely on the front end gripping, and the rear wheels are just there along for the ride, to be honest. Pouget pushing hard into the final corner as well. Lovely shot though as they come out of the last corner there. Just slowly go down the hill, and then it flattens out for the straight. Across the line again. And David Pouget does a 2:30.8, so you can see how much that slipstream helped him. That's 1.3 seconds slower than his fastest time. The highest placed non-French driver is the number 8 of Eric Zabala at the moment, the Spanish driver for Team VRT, car 8, P8 at the moment. We've got a couple of improvements coming in from a few drivers further down, but they're not really moving much. There's the GPA Racing team. They'll be happy at the moment with David Pouget up there. Now here is the number 77 car of Fabien Rival. Just behind him is the number 4. Now here is one of the right rears coming off the ground for an extended period of time. That's number 3, Alex Royo. And then you'll see it just get traction again, a little bit of smoke as he clips the curb on the way around. That's how much these cars do lean. I said earlier they are quite flat, but they do really compress the suspension as they lean on it. There's Guillaume Mayo and number 99 getting onto the back straight now, and he's got company behind him. That's Laurens Giardas, number 78 machine, currently 17th overall and 2nd in the gentleman drivers category. Mayo, I think, moving out of the way for him there. Oh, they were side by side until very late into the corner. I was expecting him to back out a little bit more than that. Maybe it's caught Giardas off guard because he's gone wide on the exit of the chicane, unfortunately. And now Mayo gets back in front, but behind them there's a little bit of shenanigans going on as well. A couple of drivers trying to exchange position. I'm wondering whether Mayo will get anything out of this lap time now with that backing off that he did before the chicane, but still, he's pushing hard. You can hear through the tyre that he's pushing hard. Using all of the road as well, really hugs the white line before he rotates the car fully and gets it chucked into the next apex. Wonderful views here at Paul Ricard. Now, he hasn't used all of the road there as Guillaume Mayo. I'm pretty sure as well this won't be his best lap after backing off earlier. That was the car that was just behind him there. That's Florian Grisot for GPA Racing. Another addition to their stable for this weekend. Now look at that, Mayo lining up the final corner as best he can to make sure he gets a good run. Goes on to another hot lap. Yeah, Mayo currently in 14th place on a 2:31.7. That time was a 2:33.8. So now he's going to line himself up for a very quick one. Drivers in the pit lane there, clearly not too impressed with that session so far. I think that may have been Jeremy Bordegaray as well, who came in the pits early on. Back with Jimenez and Pouget at the front of the pile. These two spearheading the way, and you can see how much they've broken away from Alexandre Alboy as well. Bonnet flapping around slightly on Jimenez's car as well. Now Pouget moving out of the way. He's saying, go on then. You are on a quick one. Go on through, my friend. You can see the car still dancing around on the brakes, really trying hard. Launches it into the chicane. Nearly rolls the thing over as he flings it in. Carries great pace through the chicane. He didn't have a personal best Sector 1, though. So what can Jimenez do with Sector 2? Needs to be very quick indeed. It's his personal best, but he's some 0.4 of a second off his teammate's time through there. Now, he's not going to get any slipstream at the end of the lap, but you don't really want it around here because there's not a particularly straight piece of circuit anywhere. He's through the long flick to the right. Now he's got the 180-degree right-hander. It's really about braking and throttle moderation through there, just to keep the car balanced, make sure the back end's not stepping out and you're not losing any momentum, but also make sure that you're not understeering wide and putting too much load through the tyres for the next set of corners. Only 2 more corners to go for Jimenez. You can see the front end bobbling around a little bit. Try to hug the inside line all the way through there, so you're as far over to the left as possible for the last corner. Quite wide of the apex was Jimenez. Doesn't overdo it on track limits. He needs to beat a 2:30.3. Looks like quite a quick time, in fairness, as he goes across there. Maybe a bit of a delay in that, and yes, 9/10 off David Pouget. And unfortunately for Kevin Jimenez, no improvement. Now this is some argy-bargy going a little bit further down the order. That's the 132 car of Stefan Etienne and Jeremy Bordegaray. Now, Jeremy came in the pits a little bit earlier on. I'm wondering whether it had anything to do with that. He also had the number 8 of Eric Zabala in there with him too. But that's the thing, there's so many of these cars on track and so many chicanes and one-line corners, as I call them, around here, that some of them struggle to get the space. And when you've got faster cars trying to navigate their way through, and slower cars trying to find a bit of space, maybe let everybody through, it can all come to a bit of a head sometimes. But David Pouget has done the fastest Sector 1 out of anybody in this session so far. Nicolas Milan, who is currently 3rd, has done his personal best on his previous lap. Anthony Girardot's come into the pits. Now let's see what Pouget can do. He's still got Jimenez in front of him. He doesn't want to get held up at this point through the chicane, but he's going to get some good slipstream on the exit now, which is going to help him. The timer has reached 0, so the session will be over for these guys when they next cross the line. Is Jimenez going to just pull out of the way at the last moment? He certainly makes his intentions clear. Dives to the right-hand side. Pouget goes through. Needs to keep it smooth through here. He's got 3 race wins to his name this season as David Pouget. Not quite as many as Nicolas Milan's 5 wins. He had a nightmare at Hockenheim, having contact and being spun around in the second race. I believe he got no points for that one in round 8. That's correct. He got no points whatsoever from that race. So he needs to keep these good weekends going to stay ahead of Milan in the championship, because Nicolas Milan, no matter what you do, he is always there. But David Pouget has been severely impressive so far. Let's see what he can do here then. Hugs the left-hand side, as I mentioned before, keeping the car all the way over to the left, avoids a lock-up at the final corner, throws it in on the power, keeps at least 2 wheels on the circuit, straight lines it to the line. 2:29.5 to beat, and it's a 2:29.8 for David Pouget. He does not beat his own time, but he is on pole provisionally. We wait for the rest of the cars to come through. You can be happy with that performance, though. Incredibly fast time. Now we just wait to see if anybody else can improve and move up the order. It doesn't look like it at this point. There are times coming in as people cross the line. There's a number of them, a train of cars going through Sector 2 at the moment. And there is Anthony Girardot. Like I say, he's normally in a white, black and orange car, but this weekend blue and yellow is the uniform for Anthony. And unfortunately, so is being in the pits with what looks like a particular engine trouble. He's getting out of the car now to try and inspect that himself. But that's not the ideal start to his weekend. Now Nicolas Milan has come across the line and done a 2 minutes 30.3. There is Nicolas. Hand out the window. He could not improve on that. So his best lap stands at a 2:30.2, just behind Anthony Girardot, who, while he's not had the perfect start to the weekend with the car being in the pits with issues, he's at least put it second on the grid. There is still a bunch of them coming round the final sector. I think a number of them, though, having just reduced pace in laps now, as these guys are as well. Some of them knowing they're not faster than their time. So it looks like it's David Pouget on the front row of the grid with Anthony Girardot for round 11 of the championship. Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillot will make up row 2, obviously subject to any penalties or times that get deleted for track limits. There were a number of warnings throughout both practice sessions for people abusing track limits around here. It's very inviting. But a very lively session, especially at the front for David Pouget. You could see how hard he was trying, but a great time gets him that pole position on home soil as well. It's their third visit to France this season. We started the series in Nogaro, then we went to Manicourt, and now we're back on French soil at Le Castellet, Circuit Paul Ricard. But there we go then. David Pouget takes pole position by over half a second from Anthony Girardot. 3 Milan competition cars chasing him down, though. Nicolas Milan in third, Marc Guillot in fourth. Kevin Jimenez will line up fifth. Then it's Thibaut Bossy ahead of Mathieu Lannepoudon. Eric Zabala for Team VRT ends up eighth ahead of Paul Coquain. And Alexander Alboy rounding out your top 10. 1.4 seconds off the top. Then it's Nicolas Abea ahead of Florent Grisot. Jerzy Spinkovic is 13th ahead of Michael Carré, with Guillaume Maillot in 15th. Then it's Franck Horn in 16th. Lionel Viguier, watch out for him this weekend. He's going to be good round here in the TB2S car. 17th for him. Laurent Giardis 18th. Daniel Nogales 19th. And Alex Royo will line up in 20th. 2.7 seconds off the top spot, which shows you the spread in pace a bit further down. As mentioned, though, we have another qualifying session tomorrow, which will be very, very first thing in the morning, 10 to 9 local time. That will make up the grid for round 12 of the championship. Jeremy Bordegaray, by the way, 23rd on the grid there. Keep an eye on him for tomorrow. He's going to come through the order quickly indeed. René Steenmetz and Stefan Polderman, two Chefo Sport teammates, right together. And you see there, no time for Jordi Palomeras in the GPA Racing car. We'll have to find out what happened to him. Gabriel Alonso for GPA Racing also not really putting in a quick time there, 10 seconds off. But that's the third session of the weekend for these Clios, and the first of 2 qualifying sessions over the 3 days. David Pouget really needed that, though. Puts himself in prime position, but there's going to be a lot of mind games when it comes to the races. You don't want to be that car that's in front of everybody coming on the final lap, because you're just going to get slipstreamed by absolutely everyone, and it's very difficult to overtake in the final sector, although I'm sure a lot of people will try and prove us wrong as the races go on. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. My name is Chaz Draycott, and this has been the Clio Cup Europe's first qualifying session of the weekend. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 10 to 9 local time, but for now, have a wonderful afternoon.